Good day! As I was scrolling through multiple social platforms, very active person I know, I got a strange feeling. It's the one that settles in when you've been around long enough. I'm not proclaiming myself old only after 10 plus years, but every so often I get a sense of déjà vu in the fandom. When a new drama erupts, a new debate that takes over timelines and servers, people speak with urgency, anger and outbreak, as if this moment is unprecedented. And yet, you've seen it before. Or you think so. Maybe with different usernames, maybe on a different platform, but it's the same conflict. The same arguments about minors, the same fights about NSFW, the same accusations about toxicity, gatekeeping, or moral abuse, the same declarations that the fandom has changed, or worse, the fandom is dying. Don't worry, this video isn't about picking sides. It's not about blaming one group or defending another. It's about asking a harder question. Why does the furry fandom keep repeating the same conflicts over and over again without really resolving them? What is that endless cycle of furry conflict? Well, let's answer this with different points. First of all, the illusion of novelty. Every generation in the fandom believes their conflict is new. That this time, something fundamental has broken. That this debate reveals a moral truth we've never confronted before. Very rarely it's true. Most of the time, the truth is quieter. These conflicts are not new at all. They are replays. As said before, the arguments about NSFW in minors, they existed in the early forums. They existed on DeviantArt. They existed on Tumblr. They existed on Twitter. And they still do. They exist now in Discord, Telegram, and whatever the will come next. The fights about popularity, clout and power, they existed long before the word popular was even common. They simply wore different names. And about the fear the fandom is becoming too political, too sexual, too sanitized, or too extreme, well, that anxiety cycles endlessly. The fandom doesn't move forward linearly. It loops forever. How? Are we a community without memory? Not really. At the heart of this repetition lies a simple structural truth. The furry fandom has no collective memory. Why so? Well, there is no shared archives of lesson learned. There is no transmitted wisdom. No oral tradition passed down from older members to newer ones. I say this like we are a tribe. What I'm trying to say is that people don't inherit the fandom. They arrive in it. They often arrive young, often vulnerable, often searching for belonging, identity, and or refuge, as I said in previous videos. And when they encounter conflict, they experience it as their first. Not the 15th iteration of the same debate. And 15 is quite a low number in my opinion. I do agree we are not all TBs that joined the fandom at 15 years old, because we saw Zootopia and Uvaboss are being influenced by furries. However, veterans quietly disengage when those debates arrive. The burnt out members live without ceremony, while some servers implode and some people vanish overnight. And with them goes context. What remains are fragments, screenshots without timelines, stories without nuance, and trauma without resolution. So the cycle resets. Again and again. This platform amnesia is accelerated thanks to technology. While some distort servers preserve a story when they survive, staff members and all people that felt targeted during the issue most of the time erase it. Telegram chats fragment endlessly, and you can sometimes lose everything by the single click of the block button, while Twitter rewards outrage, not reflection. All of this results in conflicts that aren't resolved. They're just buried by algorithms and people that wish to swap the remains. By the time a conversation could mature, attention has already moved on to something more enjoyable, or in contrary, worse than the ongoing problem. There is no institutional memory, only emotional residue. The fire is gone, but the ashes remain floating and on the ground. Which means every generation is forced to learn the hard way the same lessons, through conflict, pain, and fallout. Another reason the same conflicts repeat is that they are rarely solved and only performed. Most debates don't aim for understanding, they aim for moral positioning. People take sides, signal virtue, declare who is safe and who is dangerous again. The conflict ends not because something was resolved, but because everyone is exhausted almost all the time. And exhaustion is mistaken for closure. But unresolved questions don't disappear. They just wait in the dark until the next wave of newcomers steps into the same shadows, only to lit up everything again. As well as, in many communities, disagreements are about ideas. Well, here, in the Furry fandom, disagreements are also about ideas, and about identity too. Personas, art, sexuality, politics, and personal trauma are deeply intertwined with selfhood. So criticism feels personal, boundaries feels like rejection, and disagreement feels like erasure. This makes compromise incredibly difficult. Like, holy shit, some of you can't be negotiators IRL. Because when an argument threatens who you are, there is no neutral ground, only defense or attack. As long as identity remains inseparable from every debate, the fandom will continue to fight emotionally instead of structurally. I also want to come back to a point I said in my last video, and videos. Many people comes into the Furry fandom because they were hurt elsewhere. Bullied, isolated, misunderstood, rejected, blah 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 blah, you know the words. The fandom becomes a refuge for them. A place that promises safety, acceptance, and freedom. But a refuge that shines like gold creates expectation. And when expectations are idealistic, reality often disappoints. The more the fandom is expected to be better than the real world, and advertised so, the more devastating its failures feel. This is where and why cycles intensify. Idealism, outrage, outrage, sticism, micro-community, rinse and repeat. This generational disconnect is happening because there is a quiet tragedy ongoing. Different generations rarely speak to each other meaningfully. Older members often feel tired, cynical, or alienated by everything, often everyone. And newer members feel passionate, urgent, and morally convinced. Instead of dialogue, there is avoidance. Most veterans, I know it's not the army, withdraw instead of mentoring. Newcomers rebuild the wheel instead of learning from past attempts. Not out of arrogance, I mean, some of you, yes, but because there is no bridge between them. When you combine all, this is why it feels so exhausting. If you feel tired of the same debates, if every new controversy feels strangely familiar, and you feel like nothing is ever truly resolved, that exhaustion is not personal failure, it's structural fatigue. You are not imagining the loop, you are living and suffering inside it. I haven't said it in the beginning, but this video isn't a call for unity, or purity, or a single solution. Believe me, I wish. It's a call for awareness again. The fandom doesn't need to stop disagreeing. Quite the opposite. Not too much though. It needs to stop pretending every disagreement is unprecedented. Progress doesn't come from louder arguments. It comes from memory, from humility, from recognizing that every conflicts aren't moral emergencies. They're just unresolved patterns. The Furry fandom is not broken, but it is cyclical. All these cycles repeat not because people are stupid or malicious, but because communities without memory are condemned to relive themselves. If there is any way forwards, it begins with a simple shift. Less outrage, more context. Less performance, more reflection. Because if we don't learn from the past, someone else will be here in 5 years, making this exact same video, believing once again it's the first time. Fix. Learn. Remember. Well, thank you for listening. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'm always open to the discussion. But other than that, should I say in any case, have a good day, have a good night, stay safe, I will see you soon. Bye.